Hi guys, we are in and welcome to the Nature Around Us series. And today we have butterflies and over to Sean for the introduction.
Yeah, hi. In today's situation of a lockdown, we can only look out the window and wonder about nature. Butterflies immediately catch our attention because of the beautiful color and flight. We all have a lot of questions about butterflies. Where do they live? What do they eat? And many such other questions. To answer our questions about butterflies, we have Sohail Madan from BNHS today. He will tell us all about butterflies and their behavior. He will tell us how butterflies survive in the urban environment of a big city like Delhi. This is a basic butterfly webinar meant for people who are new to the world of butterflies. We would also request you to please leave your email IDs in the chat box so that we can contact you for any follow-up webinars of the series and send you your participation certificates for today's webinar. This session would be of around 60 minutes. It will be followed by 15 minutes of question and answer. So over to Sohail.
Thanks, Shantanu. Thanks, Nick, for having such great curated talks. It's been a pleasure through the COVID times. So, hi everybody. Good evening. Hope everybody is okay at home, and thank you for joining in. I hope you guys have a little bit of interest in butterflies, and we can kindle a fire and maybe start you off looking for these fascinating creatures around your home. So let me start out by talking about why butterflies are important. Why butterflies? Yeah, butterflies are part of an order of insects, and they are like a gateway to any sort of studies in in insects. So if you introduce a kid to butterflies, they take on really fast, and it's always, even adults have found them beautiful. And just yesterday, Shantanu sent me a photograph of a bug, and it was like a green red cotton bug that we see around us, but I had never seen it. And we investigated. It was a leaf cutter bug, and it's an import from America. And then it's a fascinating story that how it comes here and what happens, which crop has it come with. So butterflies are like a insight into the natural world around us. We can't quantify everything in nature. So uh, if we start out with something like insects and try and build what I like to call a Ulta Project Tiger, where we're taking care of the base of the pyramid. The food chain is maintained not just by the apex predator, it is also maintained by uh, what sort of insect diversity we have around us. In this urban scenario, now most of the forests are under threat, and our urban living situation is spreading across the country. And it's high time we start looking at butterflies in a way that we can uh, start contributing to climate change studies, and start contributing to data aggregation, start contributing to habitat conservation, what we can do, what plants we can have. So to start off this journey, I would like to keep it very simple, get people used to looking at butterflies, and then, paving a way for deeper understanding. So let me begin by telling you what butterflies are. So I discussed that they're insects. The unique feature of a butterfly and how you can identify butterflies and moths from all other insects is that their wings have scales, like you see in this diagram. This is a butterfly, and if you zoom in, you can see these blue scales. And melanin and these structural scales give butterfly its color. apart from this, a butterfly has compound eyes. It has 6 legs and 3 body parts, which we call thorax, head, and abdomen. Here you can see that parts of a butterfly. This is the antenna. This is the head, which should have compound eyes. Then we have the thorax and the abdomen. Okay, then the wing is divided into 2 parts, the forewing and the hind wing. What is most important to understand while we start looking at butterflies when we start off is understanding that they don't live one sort of life. They have these life stages, a much more efficient way of surviving the wilderness. And if butterflies are predated upon by almost everything, even there's some parts of the world where moth caterpillars are eaten. So from birds, spiders, everything predates on it. So life is very precarious. To overcome that challenge, they have this life cycle which is divided into basically 4 stages. One is the egg, then is the larva, then is pupation, the chrysalis, and then is the adult. So at different stages of their lives, this living creature has different aims, and it starts out life very differently and ends very differently because it has a purpose. Let me illustrate what the purpose is. So a egg of a butterfly, a female will lay an egg on a plant called the host plant, which is specifically chosen by the female. And this is a long evolutionary relationship which dates back really long. So this host plant is actually a host for the caterpillar, which will come out of this small egg and start chomping off on the leaves. It's essentially a eating machine, which will keep going through as many leaves as it can, mostly to start out with fresh, small leaves. And as it grows bigger, it's like a balloon which has to change the outside of it to grow bigger once the capacity is full. So it has these instars from young larva to the adult larva. It will change its shape, size, and even looks. The third stage is what we call a chrysalis in butterflies. This is a stage where the caterpillar has eaten everything it wants to eat and will go into a sort of slumber, which might outside, when you look at it from the outside, it might look that it's gone off to sleep, but there's a lot of stuff that is happening, which at this point of time, we don't know very much about. We know that they rearrange their proteins in certain way. They, whatever energy that the caterpillar has stored in it, they use that to form the parts of an adult butterfly. And once it's near to coming out, it changes colors and opens the sac and steps out. This adult butterfly now has does not need to concentrate on eating a lot or any other functions. Its main aim is finding a partner, mating, and laying eggs again, because it has divided its life cycle in such a way that it can now concentrate on finding a mate, which is again a precarious job, because there are caterpillars. As caterpillars are eaten by a lot of predators, even adult butterflies are eaten by a lot of predators. They have formed, caterpillars and butterflies have formed some sort of defenses, which can be very intricate and very interesting to study. Which include mimicry, and it includes just camouflage, hiding from hiding in the in its surroundings, to actually go into the level of putting toxins in their body in this life cycle. So it's an unpalatable food item, right? So let me tell you, I told you that butterflies are fragile and have a lot of predators, and their life is not as easy as it might look when you look at a caterpillar just eating the leaves. It's a very, very precarious life. Most of the caterpillars will not, some studies say 95% will not make it to the adult stage. So they have to uh, devise methods and follow certain ecology to make that happen. I have a few videos here. First, I would like to show you the most vulnerable part of a butterfly's life cycle. This is when it comes out of its egg, and because a presence of an empty shell will attract a lot of predators, this caterpillar has to go through and eat the egg itself. So it's just come out. And it's eating the shell. So all evidence of it disappears, and it can hide somewhere and start looking for young leaves. So this is one stage where it's really, really vulnerable. The other stage is when the butterfly is coming out of the chrysalis, and at this time it's opened up the sac, but its wings are not formed and its body hasn't taken shape. So at this point of time also, it's very, very vulnerable, and uh, we will see the video and you can see what the process is. This is not a long video, so it will just show you the coming out of the butterfly. This is a common crow butterfly. See it. You can see the fluid being pumped and the abdomen and the thorax changing shape. You can see the pumping action working, and now what we call butterfly bud will be pumped into the veins of the wings, and after drying up for a little while, it will be ready to fly off, find a mate, put its eggs down on the host plant. So these are two instances. There are a lot of these videos that you can find online, which will detail out every facet of the butterfly's life cycle. And I suggest if you're going in, if you like butterflies and you're going into butterfly study, this is a very, very interesting thing to do. It's a great hobby to pick up. Moving on, let me. So, what do butterflies feed on? How do butterflies feed actually? So you see this proboscis, it's rolled up into its mouth part, and for feeding on nectar or wet soil or any other substance that the butterfly needs for energy, uh, it will use this proboscis, dig with it, and suck up the fluid. What we have to understand about butterflies and this sucking action is that their proboscis, the pipe, is uh, actually very thin. So they're always going to be looking for nectar, which is not very viscous.
Sohail, 1 second. I have somebody saying they can't hear. Can everybody hear? Just say in the chat.
Can you hear me, guys?
Speak a little bit louder. There have been a couple of messages saying that you are like slightly inaudible.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible now? Yeah.
You are audible, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
we have all the yeses now. Let's go.
Okay, so I was talking about the proboscis. Proboscis is a rolled up pipe and it's quite thin. So the kind of substance that will go through it is not going to be very viscous, right? So it's like, imagine sucking a thick milkshake through a plastic pipe. Most of it doesn't come through, right? So it's going to go for substances which has a lot of water in it. It can be rotten fruit, it can be flowers, it can be human sweat, it can be bird poop. So there are different things that a butterfly is going to feed on while it's in its adult stage. But mostly this is just a energy sipper to find a mate and do the ultimate thing that it wants to do, that is lay eggs. Okay, we discussed the predators a little bit, and it's fascinating how many predators butterflies have. They have an important role in our ecosystem as just food source for so many other living beings that our ecosystem will collapse if we don't have butterflies and moths. So as you can see here, different types of spiders predate on adult butterflies. Even chrysalises are taken. Wasps find these caterpillars and take them inside their homes to lay eggs in it. So their larva that comes out has fresh meat to chomp on. This is a small video which just illustrates how helpless a caterpillar actually is. This is a fly here, and it's going to lay its egg on the caterpillar so that the egg can hatch and the larva can feed on the caterpillar before becoming an adult. So the caterpillar is at a branch with this fly using the longest egg laying machine that I have seen compared to the body part. And it's annoying the caterpillar, but the caterpillar is helpless. It's just a receptacle for eggs. Can't run away, can't hide now. So once exposed, a caterpillar is really at risk. See, it tries to make the fly off, but once found, it's not really going to be of any use. Okay, so let me get on with a quiz here, just to keep everybody interested before we move into the specific butterflies. These are some of the questions I have here, and let me go through them one by one. And if you guys know the answer, you can put it down in the chat, and Shantanu can tell me if people are answering. Okay, so the first question is, butterflies have dash on their wings that make them different from other living animals. What do butterflies have that is different from other animals on their wings?
Scales. Everybody says scales.
Scales. That's good. So people get that, right? That's a good start when you go outside and you want to figure out if it's a butterfly or a moth. The second question is, butterflies belong to which group? Like birds, mammals, fish, etc. Which group do they belong
to? Insects is what the general consensus is.
Okay, that's bang on. Everybody here, I think, knows a lot about butterflies. The third question is, what do butterflies feed on? And there'll be multiple answers to it, of course, but let me see the response.
So mostly it's nectar, sap.
Sap. Anything else?
Salt.
Salt, yes.
Rotting fruit.
Exactly.
Human sweat, poop.
Poop.
Minerals. Leaves. No, not leaves.
Caterpillar
carcasses.
Carcasses, yes. Okay. Okay, so you have the general idea. Okay, for the fourth question, I have prizes here. So the person...
Well, somebody said wet soil.
Wet soil, yes. That's called mud puddling. And
But do they feed on wet soil?
they can be seen feeding on it. Actually, they're just trying to get the minerals off it. So they will throw out the excess water and take in the minerals. It's essential for a few families of butterflies in their courtship ritual. It's like a nuptial gift that the male gives to the female. So the egg becomes stronger. But let's move on to the fourth question, which is, so as the person who answers this gets these two pins, which is Bhutan Glory and Kaisar Hind. And the question is easy. Butterflies, the first person gets two rings, pins. So butterflies have how many legs?
There are hundreds of people saying 6.
Okay, so the first person, Shantanu, try and figure out and get the email
that we'll have to find it on the chat box.
Okay, so the last question, moving on. Do butterflies grow in size after they come out of the pupa? And for this also, I have again two pins. So the first person.
It's divided between yes and no. It's like 50-50.
Okay, so
50% say yes, 50% say no, and some say maybe.
Okay, so the answer is no. Once the butterfly has come out of its chrysalis and is an adult, it will never grow. Even if the wing is broken, the wing will not grow back. That's it. Caterpillar did all the feeding and all the eating for the growing part of it. Butterflies don't grow. So the first person who got that answer right gets 2 pins. Okay. Now I would like to move on to butterfly identification. I will not go into detail of how butterflies are identified, because at species level, identifying butterflies is something which you have to practice, and some butterflies are easily identifiable, but most are not. So that comes with practice, but I'll give you a general idea and you would be able to come to a decision of what the butterfly family does the butterfly that is in front of you belong to. There are a few clues that will give you an idea, and then you can start off with your own exploration. So the first family of butterflies are called skippers. They are mainly brown, but can be different colors also. With insects, all these stipulations don't hold because there are a lot of exceptions. But mainly skippers are mainly they're brown, and you can put them somewhere between moths and butterflies, and they have a very unique way of sitting, which is closer to how a moth would sit. They open their wings and sit flat, and their antennas are also different from other families of butterflies. They're tailless, of course, and mostly small in size. This group is very hard to identify. Then there's swallowtails. Swallowtails is what people think of generally when I would say butterfly. These are big, beautiful butterflies, strong flyers. They come in different colors, black, red. They're large, and most of them do have tails, but they're tailless ones also. The third family is called whites and yellows. These are mainly white and yellow, and a shade between that. Medium-sized butterflies, very, very abundant, and it's a very large group. So you can see them very commonly also, and you can see a lot of variety of them very commonly too. The fourth group is called blues. Blues are tiny butterflies that don't fly really high. They're usually about 6 inches to 1 feet above the ground, and thumb-sized butterflies, nondescript when you see it with its closed wings, like mostly gray, with a few markings, and with those markings you distinguish between each species. When they open their wings, they range from brightly blue to some shades of blue. That is why they're called the blues. Okay. The next butterfly family is called brush-footed. And this is also a big family of butterflies, and they're medium-sized butterflies with many different colors again. And what makes them different from other families is that the front two legs of these butterflies are like brushes, and they're not complete. So having two incomplete front two legs will give you an idea that this is a brush-footed butterfly. They use those legs for certain purposes. So that makes them different from other families. The sixth family is called metal marks, which are not very common. It's a small family. They're distinctively metallic in color. So, and then position of sitting is also very unique, which is half open. They have half open wings, like some of the moths. And their metallic color makes them easily distinguishable from every other group. So this is a quick guide on how you could go about figuring out which family does the butterfly belong to. And after that, it's getting used to the family, checking local literature, joining butterfly clubs and stuff like that will get you a deeper knowledge of how, what sort of butterflies are around your area. I will go into a few common ones before we end the webinar. And the first from this is skipper family is called a common banded owl. And Karanj, the papadi that we have all over Delhi, is a host plant. This actually summer is a good time to spot them now after the Karanj has flowered. They are strong flyers, not flying close to the ground. They like flowers. Lantana is a good favorite of them. And you can see them mud puddling singularly on cement blocks and earthen pots around Delhi. What their favorite habit is flying around a plant and settling back at the same perch they were at. So you don't have to go far away looking for them. Once you spotted it, it will keep coming back to the same area. This is an Indian skipper.
Well,
yeah.
If you could kindly tell us the family to which each butterfly belongs to, it will help a lot of people. The
So
five families that you mentioned.
Yeah, so I started out with skippers. So this is the same order, and this common banded owl is from a skipper family, right? This is an Indian skipper, and it has a habit of sitting with its hind wing horizontal and its fore wing vertical. And it's a strong flyer, usually sticking close to his host plant on the ground, not flying very high up, 1 feet to 6 inches. And again, it has a skipper habit of sitting at the same spot, and it's very, very territorial. This is again a very common skipper of the area. These guys are common because the host plant that are mentioned here are planted in our gardens, in our schools, on the road, everywhere. They're very common. So hence these skippers are very, very common. Some of the common ones that you see around. This is a psychedelic looking egg of a common Indian palm bob. Indian palm bob is differentiated from other skippers from these black dots that you see here. And the caterpillar has a curious habit of cutting into leaves and stitching them together and hiding inside of it, right? So it wants to keep safe. So once you identify the plant, which is a pygmy date palm or a cane palm, look for these telltale signs of how half leaves have been cut and stitched together. If you see such a thing, there's probably a caterpillar living inside it. The next family is these big, beautiful swallowtails. And the most common one you will see in our urban settings is a common Mormon. The males are strong flyers, will be seen on canopy level also, and will be seen chasing each other in the area. They will not have these red marks here, and will be a complete white band. Females are generally weak flyers, usually flying around their kadi patta or nimbu or bale pattar, these host plants. If you see these host plants, I have an open challenge for Delhi where if you see a common Mormon flying around, look for a kadi patta and there will be most definitely a kadi patta there. So the females are very territorial and can be seen hanging around, flying very slowly and laying their eggs on these leaves. Another beautiful, very common swallowtail is common lime. Common lime, the caterpillar looks very, very similar to with the common Mormon. It's only in the later stages that it gets easy to differentiate between them. They're commonly found on different varieties of citrus, as well as sometimes bale patta. So they also have a very varied source of host plants, very common. Then they're fond of wet soil and will be seen mud puddling in various areas. So in your terrace garden, you can put up a earthen pot, which you put some soil, put some salt on, and keep watering it. You'll probably have a lot of these lime butterflies come into your terrace. Next swallowtail is a common jay. Very, very common again in the city areas because of Ashoka tree being its host plant. You can see the different instars of the caterpillar and how different can they be in different stages. The female and the male are alike, and they're strong flyers. Again, very, very fond of wet patches. Moving on, this is from the family of white and yellows, and this is a yellow-orange tip. The male and the female differ. This is the male, bright colors, and the female is faded with such sort of markings. And this is a quintessential caper butterfly. The host plant is Kanthari, Kareel, very, very abundant plants in the Aravalli region. So you'll see a lot of them in drier areas and in drier seasons of our year, like in Delhi, it would be dry summers and again dry winters when they make another comeback, and you can see a lot of them. Right now is a good time to see these butterflies. Similar to them, so similar to the yellow-orange tip is the white-orange tip, which is actually endemic to Indian subcontinent. It can be seen from Lahore to Sri Lanka. And the yellow-orange tip, which we saw earlier, can also be seen in Africa. But this one is endemic, which is really important for us because this butterfly cannot be found anywhere apart from the Indian subcontinent. And the host plants are similar to the yellow-orange tip. This is a small orange tip, which is a smaller cousin of the orange tips we just saw. The host plant is a pilu, which is also known as miswak. Again, a dry region butterfly. Like the other past two butterflies, it does not. It doesn't like mud puddling that much, and it can also be seen in forested areas as well as clearings. So if you see a orange tip sort of a butterfly flying inside of the bushes, it's probably a small orange tip. It has this knack of flying inside of bushes. Like pilu is a very bushy tree, and it will fly through inside, and it's easily identifiable by that behavior. Again, small orange tip is an endemic butterfly to the subcontinent. One of the most common butterflies that you'll see around around our area are common gulls and pioneers. They're very similar. Their host plants are also similar. They are strong flyers. They like mud puddling. the difference between the next one is a pioneer. The difference between the two is that you have to look for a hockey stick here on the forewing. If you see the hockey stick, it's a pioneer, but otherwise it's a common gull. It comes in shades from white to yellow. The black markings remain the same. So looking for a hockey stick will tell you which one of it is right now. So in April in Delhi, you can see swarms of these butterflies, and it's a fascinating sight. Even now, there's still some of these butterflies to be seen, not in very huge numbers now, but in April they take on huge swarms and migrate short distances inside their habitat range. Another very common butterfly is a common immigrant. This is again a fast flyer. Amalthas is the host plant. It flies on the canopy level and sits on the flowers for very, very small amount of time. We have a lot of variation in the kind of patterns you will see on a common immigrant. It can come from yellow to white to such patterns. This is, there are different forms of this butterfly, and to make it distinct from the other common butterfly that you see, which is called a mottled immigrant, you have to look for these ceres, these markings that are on the wing. If you zoom in, you will see such markings on the wing of the butterfly, which are called cere. And these cere make it very different from a common immigrant. You won't see such markings on a common immigrant. So that's what differentiates them. But otherwise, their host plant, their habits, the way they fly are very similar. Another specialist of dry areas is a salmon Arab. This is a large salmon Arab. The host plant is a pilu, and this can be seen again flying in the driest parts of the years, dry winter and the dry summer parts. And now going into May, June, you will see a lot of these butterflies in any of the Aravali forest, ridge forest, or drier forest.
Which family is this?
Whites and yellows. The smaller cousin, again, is whites and yellows, is a small salmon Arab, the similar host plants, pilu again. They lay eggs in clusters like this, and a lot of caterpillars come out, and they go at a plant ferociously. So a small salmon Arab will always try and lay its eggs on a older plant, a bushier plant with more leaves. It just makes it easy for it to survive. So older plant will attract small salmon Arab, while newer plants will also get the large salmon Arab. This is again a very, very common butterfly. Doesn't fly at the canopy level. It's smaller than the immigrants, but yellow, and it comes in different forms. This is a wet season form and dry season form, where the markings have changed, as you can see. But essentially, this is a yellow butterfly, small in size than the immigrants, and easily distinguished by them by its flying pattern, which is closer to the ground and not at the canopy level. Right? Because the host plant, like you can see, it has a lot of host plants. That is why it has managed to become one of the most widely spread butterflies in the Indian subcontinent. These host plants like this, Chui Mui or Touch Me Not, is closer to the ground. So that's where you'd see all of these flying, and even the flowers that they like to sit on. They're not very fond of flowers, but the flowers that they like to sit on are flowers at the ground level. This is Vodilia. Moving on, this is the family we call blues. Again, like you can see, this is a nondescript butterfly, brownish with markings. It's called Forget-Me-Not. The host plant is Karanj, Chudail Papri that we talked about. What makes it's a small butterfly, thumbnail size. What makes you know that this is a blues is when it opens its wings. This is a male, and the female goes to a lesser shade of blue. And this is true to all blues family. There'll be nondescript butterflies and blue in the blue when they open their wings. They fly at ground level, like I said before. Some of them, like so forget me not, is very fond of wet puddles. It goes from the same spot on a puddle, fly off if it's disturbed, and then come back to the same spot. Very easy to photograph because it does the same when it's nectaring from flowers too. The next is pea blue. Pea blue, again, this is a female. The pea blue at some parts is a migratory butterfly. Palash is its host plant, one of the host plants. And again, you can see nondescript with some markings. The eye spots, these spots are called the eye spots, are one of the few things that you should look at when you're distinguishing between blues. And hard to identify even for experts. So getting a photograph is a good first start. Next butterfly that you'll see very commonly around your homes is a zebra blue. See, it has these zebra patterns, white and black, alternatively. That's what gives it its name. This is a chitrak, which is a white plumbago, and a blue plumbago is a horticulture variety. Chitrak is the native variety. Is a host plant for zebra blues. Their caterpillar, you can see this bush, right? In this bush, when the flowering hasn't happened, the caterpillar uses the flower buds. This is the caterpillar right here. You can see the color is changed here, so you can see it. It's differentiated very easily. But here, it's well hidden. So different caterpillars will use different strategies to keep themselves hidden. This is one of the confusing butterflies when we talk about blues. The Amaranthus family is the host plant. Choloi in our region is also eaten, so and grows wild all over the place. And the growing season of such wild plants dictates the availability of these butterflies. They're strong. They're not strong flyers. Sticking to close to their host plants, fly from one place to sit on the same spot again. This is again a plains cupid, a very common butterfly. You can see it around right now. This is a sago palm or a Cycas revolta, which is the host plant for it. It uses the fresh leaves to put its eggs on, and the caterpillar is tended by ants. There's a very fascinating life history behind it. The caterpillar is exuding a liquid which the ants want, and in return they keep it safe. So you can, going deeper into this plant, you can actually find this sort of interaction going on. And this is again a perfect time to see them. Every cycas plant with new growth will have them. Very, very common around our area. Another interesting one is a lime blue, which again goes through dry season and wet season form. And small thumbnail size blues family butterfly, a strong flyer, does mid canopy level flying, can be seen around citrus plants, any sort of citrus groves, lemon trees. You will see lime blues. They don't go too far and can be very, very territorial. So till now, I have discussed a long list of blues family where I kept telling you that all the blues are nondescript on the outside and shiny blue in the when they open the wings. There are, again, like everything in insect world, exceptions to that. One of the common butterflies that you'll see around here, which is a blue and not not blue inside and brown on the outside. This is a silver line, which again is tended by ants. The caterpillar is tended by ants, and you can see it has a distinct color, hard to miss. The host plant is the inermi hedge, which has been used extensively in all DDA parks, in all colony parks to make these small hedges. And you can bring a few plants to your house also, and common silver lines will start laying eggs there. Very, very territorial again, low flyers, but strong flight. They fly very, very fast, but have a habit of settling down on favorite perches on flowers, like you can see here. This is a perch that it's taken, and if disturbed, it flies off very fast, but comes back again to sit on its favorite perch. Another of the blues, which is not blue again, is a red pirrot, which lays its eggs on calincho or patthar chatta in our area. Patthar chatta is a local plant, also a medicinal plant, where the butterfly lays its egg on the leaf, and the caterpillar burrows itself into the thick leaf. It's a succulent, so the leaf is thick, and the caterpillar will burrow inside, spend its eating time inside the leaf, poop from one direction and eat in one direction, and come out when the time is for pupation, and try and make a pupa. This is an empty shell after the adult caterpillar has walked out. Moving on to the next family. This is a plain tiger, and it's from the brush-footed family. Brush-footed family, like I said, has 6 legs, but the front 2 legs are like brushes. And a very common butterfly, also called the milkweed butterfly. This butterfly has a host plant called arc, which is a plant which has alkaloids in it. Mostly the white stuff that you see when you break it. It's very, very common, growing widely in disturbed areas. There's 3 varieties of it, I think. There's Procera, Gigantea, the blue one, the white one. The caterpillar is going to feed on these plants, which have high content of alkaloids, hence making them unpalatable to predators. So most predators like spiders, birds will avoid these butterflies. So that makes them slow flyers, very bold, not easily, not easily scared. They're hard to kill, so they take full advantage of that, and they can be seen congregating in flower patches very, very commonly. A very close cousin is the striped tiger, which is also called the common tiger at some places. The host plant is blood flower, and again a bold butterfly, not as bold as the plain tiger, but bold butterfly. Stronger flyer than the plain tiger, and less common and not so widely distributed like the plain tiger. So in our areas, in Delhi areas, it's still a rare sight. The next butterfly is the tawny coster, again from the nymphalids, the brush-footed butterflies. The host plant is the passion flower, and then many other cucumber family plants also are the host plants, and you can see them in the summer from June to early monsoon around wild areas, especially where cattle grazing is on. This is a very interesting butterfly, again commonly seen. This is a global migrant. It is seen in almost all the continents of the world, and it must have lots of host plants. Actually, I have never seen it laying eggs and I've never seen a painted lady lay eggs, but I've seen a lot of painted ladies. They're strong flyers, territorial for a while, and coat button is one of his known host plants, where this is a gregarious wild flower which lots of butterflies like. And painted lady is a butterfly which is of interest to Indian entomologists, because it does this global migration which is not very well known. There's some studies going on in the Europe, but we are trying to put up a study here, trying to figure out how painted ladies come to Delhi and where they migrate from. As you can see, striking butterflies, so hard to miss. Again, a very common butterfly. This is called a lemon pansy. You can see these eye spots, which it uses to throw off the predators. This is a Vajradanti plant, yellow Vajradanti, and very hardy plant, grows in the driest of the regions. It's full of flowers in the summer, and if you have a patch of these plants, you will definitely get pansy family butterflies. Lemon pansy will commonly lay its eggs on it, and a strong flyer, medium sized, goes to its host plant, around his host plant, can be found around his host plant, very territorial. Doesn't fly at canopy level, mid canopy level flyer. The same goes for yellow pansy. The host plants are also similar, and yellow pansy is with similar habits, but prefers open areas, whereas lemon pansy is likes wooded areas. Both can be seen in both areas, but yellow pansy has a preference for open areas. Another common butterfly is this brown-looking butterfly, a medium-sized butterfly called the common castor. The host plant is Arandi, this castor plant, which grows wild in our areas. People just cut it off. It seeds very profusely also. So once you have a plant in your home or in your garden, it will keep coming back every year. And with it, the butterflies can be seen. The curious thing to know about the caterpillar of this butterfly is that it looks like the stem of the leaf of the castor plant, and that's where it will position itself always. So if you see castor butterflies around you and you find the plant, look for the middle of the flower on the vein. The middle of the leaf on the vein is where you'll find the caterpillars. The next butterfly is a common crow butterfly, Karonda. You saw the Eclos, the chrysalis. The butterfly that was coming out of the chrysalis was a common crow butterfly. We saw the video of it. It's a strong flyer, sticks close to the ground as well as mid canopy, and the chrysalis are metallic colored. So are metallic. Yes, so it's very exciting to find such pupa if you do manage to find one. The next butterfly is the common evening brown. Till now, all the butterflies that we discussed are butterflies that fly in the day. Butterflies like flying in the day because they like a certain temperature to start their flight off. They like basking in the sun before starting their day. So they have a preference of flying when the sun is out, and they're faster. They get faster as the intensity of the sun changes, like becomes harder. But common evening brown is a butterfly which you will find only in the mornings and in the evenings, and rest of the time it will be hidden. And it has a lot of host plants, different host plants. But the interesting fact about it is that it has a lot of forms. Between this and this form, there are a lot of variations that the common evening brown will show. And commonly, this butterfly will get into your house in the evening, and in the mornings you can see it at a wall, just sitting still and not doing any activity. But if you see it outside, it will be attracted to rotting fruit, they congregate at Rotting Fruit and they love beer and stuff like that. So anything rotting is their favorite. You can see cute looking caterpillar here. And the host plant is here, it's mentioned as Indian goosegrass, but there are other grasses also and plant families that they use as their host plants. Okay, so thank you for listening to my webinar. I hope it was helpful. I would like to thank Peter sir, Dr. Jayanta Chatterjee, Geeta Yadav, Shantanu, Rajendra Singh, Ishtiaq, Lakhan, and for their photographs, and Savita Bharti and David for the videos that they have provided for this presentation. We have these are my contact address details that you can, if you want to get in touch with me, if you have some questions, further studies and reading that you want to do, you get in touch with me. Nikhil has been kind enough to put a question for the day where we are giving out exciting prizes. Zayas is sponsoring it. So I would please take a picture of this slide, or try and note down the link where you have to submit the submit the answer. The question is, why are butterflies not active in the night? And this question has to be again mailed to this link, and you can win exciting prizes. I think it's a harness. So over to you, Shantanu.
Yeah, hi. There are a couple of questions that have been coming in throughout the session. One question which I also would like to find out, this question has come up from Smita Tripathi. It says, what is the effect of the butterfly count due to lockdown? Due to lockdown, there's so much reduction in pollution and all. So what is the effect? Have the count of butterflies gone up?
Absolutely. The butterflies are easily disturbed. They're like an indicator of our healthy environment, and they're easily disturbed by human intervention. As the lockdown has put us into back into our house, there's not much disturbance for them. So populations have really gone up. And now as the lockdown continues, we're also finding out some range extensions, like some species that were not commonly seen are being seen inside of housing complexes and urban parks. So it's quite encouraging. The flittery was seen in a railway colony just yesterday in Delhi, and which is quite unusual. There are only few records over the years for a flittery. So yeah, the butterfly population has been increasing in the lockdown, and it is actually something that we should learn from in the field of conservation. So much funding and projects and stuff is based around cleaning the Ganga, and so much human intervention is required in all those projects. This lockdown has shown us that there's not much required if we can somehow curtail human disturbance. I know it's a tough task, but if we can somehow do it, I think the wildlife around us will bounce back. Nature is resilient. So.
Okay. Lisa Pankio, she asks, what does it mean when you say caterpillars are tended by ants?
So caterpillars are tended by ants means that the caterpillar forms a relationship with the ant, where the ant will keep it safe and even do some cleaning processes for it in exchange of a liquid that is coming out of the caterpillar. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay. Dhanalakshmi has said that I have a lot of wasps in my garden. Does it mean that they are killing all my butterfly pupa?
Depends on your garden size, actually. Mostly lots of wasps are coming near our gardens at this point of time for water. So if you do try out, put some water out for wasps, they won't come near your plants. But if they are coming near your plants, then definitely they're looking for caterpillars.
Okay. There are a couple of, okay, by the way, there are a couple of questions which says that can you suggest a good butterfly book for starters?
Oh, there are a lot of books now for butterflies. It's a good time for butterflies. So the first book I bought was Isaac Sir's book, Butterflies of India, which is a comprehensive book on, has lots of species and all that. But to begin with, Peter Sir's book of Butterflies of India is also a very good starter. It doesn't cover as many species, but it explains the difference between a lot of the species, which gives you a better understanding of the butterflies around you than having all the butterflies like of India. So it's a good starting tool, Butterflies of India, Peter Sir's book.
Okay. There are a
But
couple of
nowadays,
questions.
nowadays there's no need for books. Also, there's a website called Butterflies of India. You can search through families. You can search through location and get to know the butterfly. So it's, if you're taking photographs, it's very, very easy to identify butterflies now.
Okay. Janaki asks on Facebook, why is there iridescence on the wings of some butterflies? Why those wings of some butterflies are iridescent in color?
Because of the scales, how the light is falling on the scales and reflecting back. So some butterflies as you shift your position relative to the butterfly's color will also change. Some sapphires show that behavior.
Okay. There are a couple of questions related to migration. They're very interesting questions. Savitri Singh Madam asks, how do you tag butterflies for migration? How do you track the butterflies? Like for birds, you have ring tagging. How do you track for migration for butterflies?
There are a few different ways to do it. The most popular is something called the mark, release, recapture. So you mark the butterfly in different fashion, and you release and try and recapture.
Okay.
So butterfly is marked on its wings. Mostly you need permission from the department, because some of these butterflies come in the Wildlife Protection Act schedules. So once you have that sorted, it's basically a matter of collecting them, netting them, marking them, releasing them, and then catching them at a different spot.
And she's also interested to know what triggers migration. Is it change in climate or any other trigger? What triggers migration, basically? Is it lack of food? What?
Actually, not much is known about butterfly migration, but looking at how butterflies are so closely related, closely interlinked with their host plants, most of the trigger has to be the plant growth itself. And as we know, the plant growth in itself is so finely tuned with the nature around it, the weather that's going to come in the future, what sort of moisture are we expecting. So the plant itself is in tune, and I think butterflies tune into that system.
Okay, Janaki asks, does the caterpillar use its host plant only for its chrysalis formation, or does it use something else also it can use?
No, for chrysalis, it can, I've seen them on ceilings. It can go anywhere. It just needs a safe spot where it's not seen and predated on. So chrysalis can be formed anywhere. It doesn't need to be on the host plant.
Okay, I got a small question. These caterpillars, they feed on plants, right? So for farmers, are caterpillars pests to farmers?
Depends on what the farmer is growing. So, like if I grow cabbage in my vegetable garden, cabbage butterfly caterpillars will come and they will feast on the leaves of it. So definitely that makes I would presume makes the size of my gobi smaller. But there are some butterflies which are pests, but there are some butterfly caterpillars which are beneficial also. And as such, butterfly caterpillars are even the poop is a organic pesticide. So caterpillars are not just harmful; they're beneficial also.
So if you say poops are organic pesticides, so caterpillars are also pests, right, for that plant? So
Yes.
how does the poop affect some other insect and not the caterpillar?
Basically, it's about signaling, right, in biocontrollers. So the poop has these signals that, so if there are a lot of caterpillars on a plant, right? If there are a lot of caterpillars on a plant, there will be a lot of poop around. So there will be these signals that a lot of leaf-eating beings are already here. So the other pests that are coming for the same purpose get some idea of it.
I guess that kind of completes the most of the questions out here. So Nick, would you take over?
Yeah, thank you, Sohail. That was fantastic. And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody else for joining in. And do stay tuned in. We have some very interesting topics coming up in the nature around us. So do stay tuned in. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.